The Woodworks channel, now sponsored by Woodworks. How awesome is that? So I've wanted to build a wooden hammer, wooden mallet for a while. I've got normal hammers, I've got this mini sledge, I've got this rubber mallet. And sometimes I just need something that's a little bit harder than this rubber mallet and not as hard as a metal sledge or metal hammer. So I'm going to build my own wooden mallet. I just want to. I like building stuff. First, what does this need to look like? I mean, I took this rubber mallet. It's a decent size. And I took this mini sledge. I really like the form factor of this mini sledge. And I just kind of looked at them both. What parts do I like? I mean, I think the head on this one is a great size. I mean, it's almost the same size as this one, similar. I like the handle on this. I think it's the perfect length. The handle on this rubber one is just a little bit long. So pretty much this is the hammer I want it to look like. I don't exactly know what I want the head to look like as far as whatever. I want to put, I mean, I could just make it square, but I want to put a little bit of decoration on it. And once I decided, all right, this is what I want it to look like, I went to YouTube just to check to see what other people have done, or is there anything I need to think about that I haven't thought about. And I landed on Steve Ramsey's Woodwork from Mere Mortals channel, and he put leather on each face of the mallet, which I thought, oh, that's a really good idea to kind of soften that blow, stop from marring anything, which is perfect what I'm doing. He also put weights in the head of the hammer. So armed with that, I need to just make this thing. Now, I have some poplar left over when I was making handles for my files. This will be the handle for the hammer. Obviously, way more length than I need, so I will just cut it down to perfect. I need to make sure to have a tang to stick. They'll fit in the head of the hammer, so that all this fits together. I also have these offcuts from when I was doing the handles, and I can basically cut these and layer them to have the head of the hammer. The inside I will drill out on each end, each opposite head, and put weights. I think probably just washers or something. I'll have to see what I have that I think will fit in there. And then I'll just sandwich it, you know, with this thinner piece on each side. There's the hammer. The handle will fit in here. I'll cut that out too. That's what I'm thinking. I think we're just ready to set it. It's a very simple project. It's just something I've always wanted to do. And whether I need it or not, I'm going to do it. So this is the center piece of the hammer. These are the two pieces of sandwich on each side. So I'm going to cut out with the hole saw an opening for some washers on each side, completely embedded within the hammer head. I'll probably fill the rest of it sand because I don't want these shaking around as I use the hammer. I want it completely silent. I'm also going to cut these pieces apart, and so I want to angle this out. This is the top of the hammer. I want to angle out because I'm going to, the handle, I will notch the top and I'll put wedges in here, probably 2 wedges. And so I want a little bit of room to expand so this does not come off the hammer, so I want it going outwards. So when I cut it, I will account to do a slight angle for that. Of course, there's multiple ways you could cut this thing up. Since I'm doing the bandsaw, I want to make sure to have a backer the entire length of this little piece. I put a shim in there to angle it slightly towards the bandsaw so that I get that wedge shape I'm after. And of course, I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going ahead and gluing up at least part of the hammerhead, so that way I can put my nuts in here, and I want to go ahead and put sand in here because I don't want them shaking around. So that glued up so I can put that in there and then glue the other side on there. And while I'm waiting for that to glue up, I can start working on the handle. I love a project like this because it's not a very long project, and it's going to be a very useful tool. I mean, there's been a number of occasions, not often, a number of occasions where I've wanted a wooden hammer. Just you want something that you want to hit something with, like a, you know, usually it's when I'm doing woodworking projects where I want something hard enough to hit it, but not too hard. And this is going to be perfect. You see, I've got my wedge shape in here, so when I put the handle coming from this way, I wedge down this way, I'll splay it out. That head will stay on there, which is exactly right. I'm going to clamp this. I'm going to work on the handle because I need to figure out what shape that needs to be. I'm going to put this on the lathe. I'm using my big lathe. I've not used that one before. I just want to compare it to the mini lathe I have used. I don't want to round this all the way out. I want it kind of axe handle oval shape, but I do just kind of want to round off the edges just to start getting shape, get some curves in there. Once I get the curves right, cut it so it's a little more oval, and then just round it over maybe on the belt sander, maybe by hand. We'll see. I feel like I kind of have done this backwards. I started rounding this and I was going to cut it after I rounded it. And after I started rounding it, I realized that once it's not square, it makes it a lot more difficult to cut. So I should have cut it to basically my rough shape, very close to the shape first, and then rounded it over. What I'm going to do, I've marked kind of the center on each end, and I put a tape line. I have a tape line here, which is actually a good spot, and I'm going to keep that line, the line of the center of the handle on it, and just kind of trim each side, try to be as parallel as I can, because I want this an oval shape, and unfortunately it's more round shape. Yeah, I should have thought this through. I should have cut it to a rectangular shape, and then round it over. Probably didn't need the lathe for this. Lathe is great for round things, not oval things. So that is the mistake I made. I should just cut it oval and then just round it off the edges, either with a router bit, on a belt sander, on something. I didn't, so now I gotta try to make the best of what I've got here. So I'm finally getting to a point where I'm happy with this handle. What did I do? Well, I cut it to shape on the table saw, and then I used the router to get the edges rounded over. Basically all the things I should have done from the very start to begin with, instead of trying, I don't know what I was thinking. So now I just need to notch the end so it will fit in the head of the hammer. I've got a few gouges here I don't love, but I don't really want to cut this down anymore. I mean, I could, but I've put so much time into this already, unfortunately. But I really like what it's come to. You know, it's a little bit big for the grip I'd prefer. You know, the hammerhead will come down to about right here, so I'll hide some of these mistakes. You know, I'd like a little bit like curvature to this, but I don't want to fool with it at this point. I don't even know a great way to do it. I think I could probably shape it on belt sander maybe, but this, for what I'm going to use this for, I'm tired of fooling this thing. I just don't know what I was thinking. I mean, the lathe was not a great choice for this. This time has the oval shape I'm after. It looks decent. So I've notched the top for the hammerhead. I've also notched it for my shims. Did it on the bandsaw. Kind of wish I'd taken a little more time. Either started it on the table saw and finished it with a handsaw, or done the whole thing by handsaw, because I'm a little small. This is a little smaller than what it should be. Not a problem. I can shim it side to side, front to back. I'll also be putting these wedges in here. You know, that wood glue can also just do like wood glue and some sawdust mixed together to fill some gaps. Wish didn't have to do that. Wish I'd taken a little bit more time to do it. But you know, the handle took me longer, and then I got impatient, and that's where I'm at. So unfortunately, that is what it is. I did make sure I did go back around, make sure that this line was clean all the way around, level and flush. It wasn't quite when I finished, so I redid it, because you do want that line looking good, so that you know you just got a good joint. Yeah, I don't know, this whole build has been a bit of a mess. I did this hammerhead wide. You can see there's a bunch of gaps. I'm going to saw this, square it later. I just want to kind of get it all together, kind of get a general shape. So you see these were the nuts I had. They're a little bit big, but I've got some place sand, which is very fine sand. I'm going to fill it these holes with that, kind of pack it in, because I don't, if you hear it, when you're using the hammer, you're going to hear these nuts rattling around. I don't want it to rattle. I want it to sound very solid. The sand and the nuts in this, a bit of an experiment, worked out great. You don't hear anything, you don't hear anything shifting, you don't feel it, and it has just enough weight to it. You know, I wouldn't mind it being a little bit heavier, but it has just enough weight. I like that quite a bit. Now overall, I think my handle, I don't know, I mean, looking at it in the camera, my handle doesn't seem too long, but I don't know, just looking at it, I feel like it needs to be shorter. Like, I feel like I want to kind of hold it right here. Like, here just feels too much. I want to shorten a little bit. I have that dimple from the lathe and that whole failed experiment, but it just seems a bit long. The handle still seems overall just a little too thick. I'm concerned to cut it down a little bit. I don't know, you know, I thought about trying to put a little bit of curvature into it, and I don't exactly know the best way to do that. My exploration on the lathe, that did not work out too well. I don't really want to cut it overall too much. You know, maybe like a little bit of curvature, kind of maybe top and bottom, just like a little bit wider right here. But really, I mean, this looks good. I certainly screwed it up, but I managed to work it out where it looks good. So I may not worry about it. I may just cut it just enough to get this dimple at the bottom. I don't know, I mean, I think like from here up, like that looks good. That doesn't look bad either. But this head will also be cut down. I just kind of glued some scrap together. So once that's down, the portions may want to be a little different. Man, I like how that came out. That came out quite well. So this is awesome. I was squaring up my head of my hammer, and you see that little hole? Well, apparently that is where I drilled the hole for the nut and the sand, and I had a bunch of sand pour out. So I've put in sand where it's just about to the top. I left a little bit of gap, and I'm going to mix some sawdust and wood glue and fill in that hole What a mess, man. This thing, I don't know. You know, sometimes I think I know what I'm doing. I'm decent at making stuff I would. Then I have things like this hammer where everything goes wrong. I think part of the problem is that honestly, I'm afraid of the table saw. And if I just used the table saw instead of trying to use the bandsaw, I would have come out ahead. But the thing scares me. And it's good to have a healthy fear of it, but in this case, should have just used it. Could have gotten some better cuts. Let me fill in this hole and make this project take a little bit longer now. And then the blue is just, you can see the blue in there. That's from the tape. I put some tape on there so I could finish squaring that up because I was cutting through it and that's all the sand pouring out. And I stopped to figure out, what is that? I realized what I'd done. I just got done rounding over the hammer. I rounded over the long sides of it. Yeah, just that little bit of round over, that little bit of time just makes it look so much better, so much more finished. I'm leaving the ends flat. I'm going to glue some leather on there, and I don't want curved edges because I just won't be able to glue well to that. I tried to round over the end of the hammer to like make that look better. Didn't like that at all, so I trimmed it off. I'm probably just going to round it over with the belt sander, get a more gentle curve, something less aggressive. Because it didn't look right. It just kind of came to a peak, looked weird. So I think something maybe like about 1/8 inch or so round over. I'm going to do it on the belt sander. That should be sufficient. But I mean, here it is. It's looking like a thing. Now I still need to actually attach the top, but you know, it looks like a hammer. Now, is the handle too long for it? I mean, I don't know. It looks more or less proportional. It seems a bit long, but I guess you know, it's better to have it too long than not. Oh no, man, I like this. You know, I've always wanted a wood hammer. Will this actually benefit me at all? I hope so. But really, I'm making it because it's always kind of wanted it, and that's all there is to it. You know, of all the screws I made, at least I have a nice tight joint between the handle and the hammer. At least, you know, one good thing came out of that. I'm liking this. You know, there's been a couple times I've wanted a wood hammer, so hopefully this will do it. The little hole I made, I gotta let that completely dry, so I will use a chisel to kind of scrape that flat, and then belt sander just to give a nice finished edge. Then I need to wedge the top. We are making progress. So I've gotten a chance to think about this, think about all the ways I should have done this better, and I've gotten a chance to redeem myself here because this handle, it's just a bit too long. With the size of the hammerhead now, it's too long. So I want to cut maybe about this much out. But what I'm going to do, since this head is a little loose, I'm going to cut it off right here. And that way I can cut this on the table saw like I should have. I mean, it's a mess. You can see it's a mess. That way I can get a tighter fit, and ultimately I'm going to be happy with it because I won't have some weird gaps here. What I should have done is done the table saw and kind of done multiple passes through this to get kind of that perfectly. Same with the other side. And then, you know, for this taper, I don't quite know how to do that. I mean, maybe I can still do that on the bandsaw, but I would like it to fit a little bit better than what it does because, yeah, that's not like it. And then plus I had some little gouges here. I better cut that out too. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do at the bottom. I think the belt sander, just ran that over just enough to where it's kind of curved. I think that's good. I mean, I like the handle a little big, but you know what? Not much I can do about that, but there's just a little bit of wobble to that. I want to get it out. And so I can accomplish that by just shortening the handle because the handle, now that I've done the head, it's too big. I don't like it. I want it shorter like that. That's perfect. Sometimes you just need the journey to get there and to figure it out. So I've cut this on the table so I can see it just looks so much nicer and cleaner. I need to go over with the belt sander, smooth it out. But look at this thing. It like just barely kind of fits in there. It's kind of snug. That is absolutely perfect. Exactly what I want. So this is awesome. This is exactly it. This is what I was after. I don't know why I didn't think of that, why I didn't do it. That's just the way it goes sometimes. But you live and you learn, and if I ever get the inkling to build another hammer, I can go back to this video and look at my mistakes and look what I did right, and it'll save me some time, trouble, and headache. I'm so glad that I went back and I did this right. I made my notch. I only went halfway down. I don't know how far I should go down. I've got these, I think these are door shims. You get like a 50 pack from a big box improvement store. I'm just gonna cut these down to where they kind of fit in these notches where the base just barely fits in there, and then hammer it down to get a nice tight fit. So one thing is that my hammerhead, wherever it is, the inside of it, the opening is splayed out like this so that I can put these notches in and splay it out. And I was thinking this needed to be angled too, but actually I can't cut this at an angle like that because it would not fit in the hammerhead. You just cut it straight, and hammering in these wedges provides the angle. I think it's good. Again, I don't know how far I need to go down on this. I mean, looking at it, seems like it's a little bit short. At the same time, this hammer, I'm not using it to knock something out. So basically just very fine detail work. So I'm kind of thinking it's going to be okay like that, and that'll give enough splay. Where do I just go? And you know what? I'm going to make it a little bit deeper. I'd like just a little bit more deeper. I think it's going to make me feel a little bit better about it. That's one thing I like about wood. You know, just keep whittling away until you get it right, until you like what you got. These shims, they're not fully in. I've cut these things 4, 5, 6 times. Because at first, I cut them before I ever put the handle in the hammerhead. I guess that compressed them just a little bit where my shims were too big. And then I realized that, if you cut them just perfect size, once you start putting the first one in, within the second one, it's too small. So I finally figured out these will go in quite a bit more and give it a really nice compression where this head should not fall off. But yeah, I kept doing it, but it's looking pretty good. My gap at the top is not as perfect as I'd like for it to be. I don't know what happened there. It looks, there's a little bit of gap on one side. I don't know if it got crooked or what's going on, but still, it is a nice fit. My gap around here, it's good. It could be better. I kind of got tired of trying to trim it down because it's good. Maybe I should go that extra mile. It's all in the details. You know what, I talked myself into it. Let me take this head back off because I think it's just like one little corner is kind of holding the whole thing up, and I'd love to tighten that gap just a little bit more. So let me do that. Then we're close. Look, I love this little thing, man. It looks cool. It's a hammer I made. It looks a bit simplistic, granted, but you know what? That's okay. All right, we are down to the final moments here. I've worked on the fitment between the handle and the head, and it is pretty doggone good. Good enough to where I'm done with it. I just don't want to fool with it anymore. I'm going to put these shims in here. Drop a bead of glue in there first. Make a little bit of a mess. Give myself something to clean up later. Get these shims in here. It's funny, I know that thing went in there before because I had it in there. Now it doesn't want to go. There we go. I guess I need a hammer to complete this hammer build. Or maybe I don't. Maybe I can. Whole hammer head was coming off. That's interesting. I think that would not happen. Yeah, I think I just got the gravity all wrong, thing like that. You know what? Oh, I should get a hammer. Let me get a hammer. Let me do this right. How many times have I tried to shortcut it and it messed up? I don't know why the hammerhead is coming off. There's got to be a good reason for it, but as I hammer it, I don't know. I wonder if I cut the slots too deep, and as it's pressing out, it's pushing the whole thing up. That's a good question. I don't know. Well, those things are in there pretty good. So we're going to let it dry. We're going to see what happens. I originally talked about putting leather on both sides. I wonder if maybe I just put it on one side and put it on the side where I drill through, cover up that little mistake. Because I don't know. Do I always want leather on it to soften the load? Or do I want a side that is the wood and the hard? I don't know. It's a good question. I think I could definitely do better doing it again, but that's kind of the process. You do it once, you learn, you grow, you get better as you do it again. I've let this thing dry. Now I'm just going to saw off the top. I thought about keeping a little nub, but I really don't want a nub. I'm going to see if I can saw it flat and be done with it. So I love this saw. This is a pull saw, so it cuts when you pull. A lot of saws are cut when you push. Just a lot more control. I really like it. Didn't quite get it super flush, but you know what? My belt sander will take care of that. Overall, I like this little hammer. I wish I had done a little bit more to make it look a little cooler, but all in all, it is neat. It's going to do its job. I wanted a hammer I need a wooden mallet. All in all, it's a wooden mallet. That's what I wanted, just when I'm working on woodworking projects. Sometimes you just need to hit something and you don't want it very hard. And this is perfect. I think I will glue leather on one end just so I have a little bit of softer edge if I need it. Sand that down just a hair. I like it. Look at that thing. I love it when I already have some scrap I can use for a project. This is just a scrap piece of leather I had. I'm guessing the grainier side is going to glue better than the smooth, flat side. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to trace the head of my hammer onto one corner, cut it out, glue it, and call this project done. I've glued the leather onto a little bit of final trimming to get a very close shave on it. And that'll do it. Now we're officially done. The leather, it does dampen the sound a little bit. I thought I'd do it more. It looks cool and it covers that mistake I made when I actually accidentally saw it too close. I like it, man. It looks good. Neat little thing. I wish it was a little more neat, but for my first hammer, I'll take it.